Good morning and welcome to Paul T's World. In this episode we'll be looking at my back garden. It's late June, early July, and of course that means dahlias. As our winters are not too severe, I leave the dahlias in. I don't lift dahlias. I did actually try one year when I wasn't very experienced with the dahlias, and I did everything you should do and put them in the shed and they all died. So I decided to leave them in and they're quite happy. Maybe now and again I might lose one, but generally they're okay. This is 2 new ones this year. Because of lockdown, haven't bought much this year, in fact hardly anything, but those 2. And there's the little one. Very traditional plant in Britain. I know it's not a British plant, I think they're from Mexico, aren't they? But many allotment holders grow dahlias as cut flowers. This one will be white pom-pom type, and this is a classic Mexican bloom look. So I've just squeezed this one in here between another hydrangea and the mahonia. So we have a mahonia here. Nice yellow flowers early on. Now I'm not sure if the berries are eaten at all by the birds. I just don't know. Don't know much about mahonia really, except you can certainly cut it back and it will grow profusely. And I believe you can take one of these off, so a friend was telling me, and just plonk it in the ground and it will grow from there. And in fact in my sister's garden these self-seed all over the garden. I've never seen anything like it. And the spirea, this is a really old spirea, bridal wreath. Well past its best, probably should be replaced now. I've tried cutting back 1/3 each year, but it'll still flower next spring. But probably time for it to be replaced. This viburnum is from a cutting I took from the one on the patio. We have the scorched leaves that I noticed, and I was kindly informed that is sun scorch. Hasn't harmed the flowers, hasn't harmed the plant. And at the end of this bed is the Rowan. Classic British tree. And this is the common Rowan. There are a number of varieties, hundreds of varieties, with all different berries. But I wanted the berries that were red, because really this is for the birds, not for me. It does look nice, but it looks nicer when there's a blackbird stood on there eating the berries. Be a nice crop of berries, so heavy that it bends the branches over. Just look at this. This is going to be gorgeous this autumn. Absolutely gorgeous. Oh, look at this. Now that's a late flower. Bit late, hey, come on, you need to be berries by the autumn. And of course this flowering currant that 3/4 died this year. Oh, I was sad about that, because it was just the size I was wanting. It looked great, and as you can see I've cut a lot of the dead branches off, but some of them, let's see, down here, these are alive, and I'm going to leave it. And so I've got a little space here. Ooh, look at the rain, the heavy rain has just broken that off. So I've got some space here and the other side. So what shall I plant here to climb up this structure? Certainly a clematis, I think a montana. Maybe if I had a montana that would cover the whole area, and possibly try again one of the early flowering clematises and see if that can come up and be showy early on in the year. Here's my hedge, the beech hedge. That gets clipped in, well, in a month's time, just over a month's time. And there's a little area here, so I bought this just to put in some of the flower pots. I need lots of flower pots for all those lavender seedlings I get each year. Look at the lawn, it's greening up. Do you remember in that other video it was totally brown? That was 100% brown. It's not looking great, the lawn. I had intended seeding it and doing a few things with it, but because April and May was so dry, I just left it. Don't think there's much you can do with a lawn when it's dry. So this is the laburnum my sister gave me, 2 seedlings. We've seen that in full flower in the other video. I planted this viburnum, it's probably a tinus, to fill in this area, because I planted this whole large hedge to give me room behind to have my compost bins and leaf mould bins and a place to put things that you want out of sight. So I wanted a big evergreen plant. This is an escallonia, pretty little, well, it's pretty big escallonia actually. It's an, I don't know how to pronounce it, Ivea, white flowers, in the wrong place. The viburnum has suffocated it. Too late to dig out now because it's a big plant, but I've cut it right the way back and it will flower back here. And just behind here we have the liquid amber. Do you remember the one the blue tit used to sit in at the top and sing his head off in the spring, claiming his territory? And that's going to look great in the autumn. That's really why I bought this tree, for the autumn colour, but doesn't it look nice now? There was actually a large apple tree there, but because there is already a large mature apple tree here, just got too many apples. No, there's a female blackbird stood in the tree. You might not be able to see it there. She's waiting for me to just move away a little bit because she fancies some fat ball. She'll swing on the fat ball. They've learned from the blue tits how to swing on fat balls. Sometimes she'll dive up and jab a beak. Oh, I wonder if, no, it's flown off. Oh, that's the male chasing her. So how are the apples doing? Let's see if we can see. There we are, some of the apples there. It's a Bramley cooking apple tree. It will produce plenty of apples, too many really. And as we can see here, it's shedding some of its apples. June drop, we call it. Now, to begin with, the apples it was shedding were this big. The first one's just this big here. And I notice now it's shedding some of the slightly larger ones. Saves having to thin them out yourself, but I'll probably thin some out as well. Let's just have a little look across this hedge that I planted. We saw the Guelder rose in full flower and now the berries are forming. These will be a gorgeous red. Lovely British plant. There's the oak tree. I got one of the acorns from round at my father's garden. He has a large oak tree in his garden. This is the field maple, Britain's only maple. Oh, and this is Forsythia, just to add a little bit of colour in the back garden. So it's getting nice and thick. With all the different leaves. There's a holly in there as well. I planted an escallonia, but it hasn't done very well. Because what I'm trying to do is just cover the compost bins in the background there. What else did I do? There's a hawthorn tree, a silver birch, all sorts. And for a bit of colour, a Weigela. So this is the pink one. Just the last three. The last 3 flowers remaining. Oh, I love the way it arches over. However, as soon as those flowers have gone, we'll prune it back. We'll prune it right back, actually. Yeah, I'll take these right back to here and let it grow up again, because we want plenty of room for the other spirea. This is the new one, bridal wreath, the new spirea that planted, was it last year? Maybe the year before. It's doing really well. This is going to be covered in beautiful white flowers next spring, early next spring. The elderflower grows wild in Britain. Flowers are over, of course. Lovely white fronds we have. People make wine out of elderflower. The honeysuckle still flowering. Gosh, 1 or 2 videos ago it was flowering, and it's still flowering. I've got a Clematis montana here, not doing very well. It doesn't quite like it. I don't know why. I put it in there to grow over this archway. You can just make out I've got some bags of compost, ericaceous compost and normal compost in the background there. Oh, I always forget the name of this. Oh, it was very small for many years and then suddenly shot up. Oh, can't remember the name. And behind is another elderflower, but this is the ornamental version. Unfortunately, it doesn't get enough light or water, particularly water. It likes lots of water. Hazel tree I planted there. Probably in the wrong place, but I just fancied a tree. I've planted lots of trees in this garden. The garden is in fact 1/4 of an acre. That includes the house. And it's amazing how many trees you can plant in an area, well, in any area really. Trees don't have to be enormous. See, look at this hazel. It's been there years and it's just a nice little tree. Oh, and there's a lovely little canopy here it's forming. So anyone can grow a tree, regardless of the size of the plot that you've got. Just manage it. If it's deciduous, cut it back in the winter to how you want it. I've got cuttings here waiting to be shredded. So I'll have a session shredding. Got some spare sandstone from this wall that I built. There's the wall through there. I had it layered either side this wall so that there's gaps inside for the newts to hibernate, frogs, insects, anything that wants a little bit of coolness in the summer and perhaps a lack of frost in the winter can hide in my wall. This needs a little bit of a makeover really, but let's go through it anyway. I think I'm going to redo this whole area, but let's have a look what we've got. We've got the lady's mantle, this is called, isn't it? Killia mollis. And the foxgloves. These foxgloves are now almost over. Oh, there's a bee just going in it there. The bees, I'll just see if I can hold it steady for, oh no, he's gone. The bees really like going into these bells. Lovely to watch. All over Britain, foxgloves grow wild. This is the colour. This is the colour that you'll see in the countryside. All you have to do is leave these seed heads to form and you'll see little foxgloves everywhere. I love it. Then just dig them up and put them where you want. This is a Dicentra, bleeding heart. It's getting a little overshadowed now by this shrub that I've forgotten the name of. So I could do with doing something with that, because I do like those. All the spring flowers here. There's primroses. Oh, and there's weeds like that one. And look at this, the usual. Now I reckon that's probably an ash seedling. Yeah, there's probably another one. So those will get pulled out right now. There we are. And this one. Yep, out you come, and you. Oh, what's this? Is that a dead nettle, is it? Monk's hood or something? And the epimedium. These look great in the spring. I'll have to check when to cut all the dead leaves off. I'll probably leave it for the moment, but before the flowers start to come up, cut most of the leaves off, and then you can see the flowers. Mexican Fleabane, I was informed. Looks lovely early on in the spring. Now I made a mistake here. This was that gorgeous ivy-leafed toadflax that the butterfly was on in the April video. And someone said, oh, it's very invasive, that, can't get rid of it. So I pulled a little bit of it out, expecting it then to come back, and look, it's all gone. Hopefully next year it'll come back. Now, what else have we got here? Now, do you remember these? I don't think these will make the Chelsea Flower Show. These are Solomon seal. And do you remember I said that the Solomon seal sawfly will arrive in a month or two? I'll show you what they did look like. And now look at them now. Are any of the... I think they've finished and gone. Usually you see dozens of the sawfly caterpillars on there. I don't mind. This is the wildlife area and they're wildlife. Oh, and here we've got some lords and ladies. Got this from a friend. See this wild in the British countryside? More hellebores, of course. I popped a little bit of ivy there on a wood pile for the wildlife. Don't want it to go too wild, but that's okay. Makes a nice habitat. Nice and damp under there. Over there we've got some lily of the valley. Obviously things not looking at their best right now. These are spring plants. And the climbing hydrangea. I think I'm going to have to take it off those windows. It'll cover this whole area. Hasn't flowered. I just don't think it likes it there. I don't expect it to flower, but when they do, it's spectacular. You see some houses with it right up their walls. This is some of the Clematis montana that's come over from the other side of the shed. This is nice. Now this is Virginia creeper, but before everyone says, oh, it's invasive, this one isn't. This is Chinese Virginia creeper. Now the Virginia creeper we have in Britain also has adventitious roots, the aerial roots. We have ivy, climbing hydrangea and Virginia creeper. All of those have adventitious roots. This, let's see if we can see. So it's trying to grow up here. But you see, it's not actually, maybe it is sticking to it, but essentially it twines round. It twines round. These aren't roots, they're just clinging on. So it's not sticking to this. Let's see if I can get a better example of it twining. Twining round. Oh, here we are, over here. I'll just walk through the honesty plants, try not to disturb too much. There. See, it's actually will twine round things, not stick to them. So this is Chinese Virginia creeper, and the reason I've got this is because of its autumn colour. Fabulous autumn colour. If you want to buy plants with autumn colour, don't buy them in the spring, buy them in the autumn, and look at the colour they are. That's why I bought this. I saw the colour of it wasn't very big, of course, but it just had a few leaves and they were red. Now it looks as though it might layer. I reckon I could probably layer this and get other ones. Oh, it's just coming out here. Oh, look at this. Yeah, that's gone underground and has come up there. So I could dig that up and have a new plant. Some more London Pride. Oh, poppies. Poppies growing wild. I think these are Welsh poppies. Don't like the look of this too much. This probably has to go. I was letting it grow to see what it was. Still don't really know what it is, but I don't think it should be there. The Honesty. All self-seeded. Now back to the Foxgloves. So this Foxglove is finished. I'll let this dry out and have the seeds. I can then empty the seeds onto my hand and sprinkle them where I want to have them grow next year. Or I can go round and here, this one will flower next year. They're biennial, so they grow 1 year, then get bigger the next year and flower, and then produce their seeds, and then that's it. I find those all over the garden. Great. Too many, but that's okay. You can just pull them up, give them away, or arrange them in nice strong drifts. No nicer sight in Britain than seeing bees on the foxgloves in early June. Scotland covered in them in June. Gorgeous. Lake District. So this is the Montana, Clematis montana. And the eating apple tree, James Grieve. They're quite nice apples actually. Now as you can see there's a little bit of fire blight. I need to snip those off. Okay. The white Weigela flowered quite early. This is the earliest flowering one I've got. So I've cut it back. Let's see. I've cut it back here and now it's sending off new leaves either side. Nice and strong. Look how strong this will be. Maybe that should come off there. See how that's touching there? So when you're pruning, perhaps take things off. There's a little bud down there. So take it off there so you don't have it damaging itself. In the wind, blowing backwards and forwards, rubbing up and down. Next to the Weigela is a plum tree. Got 2 plum trees so that they would cross-pollinate. Here's the other plum tree. Let's just see how it's doing. Here we are, there's a little plum. There we are. Now one thing about plum trees, if you do want to prune a plum tree back, do it in the summer. I know most plants and trees want the winter, but with plums, it's the summer. So before you start pruning things back for the first time, just Google it and see when you should prune it back. For example, cherry trees, they also should be in the summer, but most of the winter. Now, what have we got here? From the vegetable area, I dug up it wasn't last year, a few years ago, I dug up some rhubarb and put them in here, just for a little extra place. You can see how much it's rained because the rhubarb is standing upright. At this time of the year, normally all the rhubarb is flat. They want lots of water and lots of food. So in the very early spring, well, actually these come up in February, don't they? So in the depths of winter, get loads of compost on them. Here we've got some more little foxgloves. These are little, flowered this year. This is it a red hot poker? I think it's a red hot poker. They want a lot of water. Hasn't started flowering. It might not here. It's very dark here. And behind we have another foxglove. So that's getting ready to flower next year. So we can dig that up and put it with the other foxgloves. And behind we have got a crabapple. Sometimes I have to take some of these off because they're too heavy for the plant. They are a lovely, is it orange, red in the autumn? Love it. This is a Philadelphus has decided it's going to come from over there and it's going to make its way along and land in the crabapple tree. I love that. From the house I can see the white flowers making their way. It's like a climber, just appearing where it wants to. Aha, Grandma's necklace. Oh, this is a little thug and I like it. It will send up seedlings all over the garden. Recognise them from this leaf. Just look at the shape of that leaf and the colour. See, it's got a little tinge in it. That's its giveaway when you see it round the garden. Birds just pull them out, but I like it because it's vigorous and the birds, including the robins, actually like the berries of this. It's Grandma's necklace, and the proper name, or one of the, no, actually a common name, is Himalayan honeysuckle. Himalayan honeysuckle. Cut it back as you like. Look at that dead, so I should really cut that back just there. Sometimes these grow really long. Lovely to see the birds jumping around this bush. And in front we have the Weigela, and it's the Weigela ruby, what was it? Red ruby? Oh, I've forgotten the exact name. Obviously I'll put it up for you. Oh, and there's one flower still there. So it's time for this to be pruned back now. So Weigela, same as that white one we looked at a few minutes ago, they will flower on new growth. So I'll cut it back probably there. And then it'll grow back again and it'll have all its flowers on the end, or tend to have all its flowers on the end. If you don't prune it back, it'll get leggier and leggier and the flowers will be further and further away from the main plant. Spectacular. We saw that in full flower in the video last month. We're round at the pond area. I'll do a separate video of the pond because there's some new plants in there that are now flowering. But here, this self-seeded, and I think it's a lovely backdrop to the pond, and it is yellow loosestrife. Just checking, that's like yellow loosestrife, or is that yeah, I think it is. If it had come out, I would have said it's a weed, but it's not coming out, so I think it's attached to the yellow. Yeah, sorry about that. So it's a thug, so I don't mind being heavy-handed with it. Yeah, dubious on that. But yeah, I don't mind being heavy-handed with it because I will have to dig out at least half of all this, otherwise it will totally take over. But I tolerate it because I like it. And here is a stilby. It's being shouldered out by the yellow loosestrife. it doesn't get enough water, and so it doesn't do very well. I've forgotten the name of this. I did learn the name of this. Very pretty, but ooh, it's a bit of a thug, that one as well. You can see it growing all the way along here. Look at this. Yeah, probably, ooh, and here. So I probably could do with getting a bit of this out. So we've got yellow loosestrife, and next to it, my favourite, purple loosestrife. So this grows wild in Britain, and obviously it's purple, and I will show that when it comes into flower. So these want lots and lots of water. They often grow alongside watercourses, ponds, etc. So what I did when I was digging this bed, I actually laid some butyl lining under here because I don't want this to be free draining. I want it to stay wet. And in a dry summer, it's difficult to keep things wet. But that helps out, having a butyl lining holding everything back. What have we got here? Some irises. Oh, little red hot pokers. There we are. Now this little thug of something is flowering. Look at that. That's a nice, cute little white flower. Oh, and we've got weeds growing up through here. Yep, there we are. That particular weed, I think it has a little purpley flower. It's easy to pull out, as you can see. We'll just move over to the pears. Here's the conference pear. Let's see how large the pears are. And the other pear tree, the comis. Let's just carry on this bed here round the pond. I'm trying to find out the name of this. I discovered that it is a little bit invasive, and someone on the channel very kindly told me, yep, it's invasive. And I found mixed up in some of the shrubs, even in the front garden, I found this. I think it was planted originally way over in the corner there. You can just see it, so it's all stemmed from that one. And I suppose I should take off the seed heads here, but I like them. Look at that. Arching stems. But by next year this will have gone. I'll pull this out. So once again, because of the depth of the soil here, I've lined it with, well, first of all, I put these wooden things in. They don't last that long, actually. They'll rot. But I haven't found anything that... Oh, a little bit of a fight going on with the blackbirds behind me. I haven't found... Oh, might have to break that up in a minute. I haven't found anything that looks nice and is more durable. So we've got the London Pride, some snapdragons here, and self-seeded calendula. Dahlias need deadheading regularly, and then they will keep on and on flowering. They're brilliant. They will continue to flower until the first frosts. So that's going to be October, November. There aren't any to be deadheaded now, apart from this one, but it's obvious that that one is now finished because there's the petals. But on the next video, I'll show you exactly what they look like, so you can recognize what is going to come out and what has been out. And I can see behind the lavender, there's that weed I was telling you about. There it is. See with its little flower there. It should just, yeah, pulls out quite well, this. It's got a little root system, but yeah, you can pull it out quite well. They seed everywhere. Bishop of Landruff is this one, with the dark leaves. Oh, the blackbirds have stopped fighting and they've started singing, which is nice. Lychneus, is it, this one? Red campion. I'll check up on those, make sure I get that right. Poppies then will self-seed. I might scatter them myself where I want them. If you found the video interesting, please give it a like, hit the notification button, subscribe, all those things. And then I'll see you next time in Paul T's World. Bye.